Welcome to module number 3 as part of the specific equipment training for ISO1 East burner. This module will cover burner safety. As you recall from previous modules, the number one priority at all ADM facilities is safety for the human element, for the equipment, which then helps to further protect the human element. So we'll go ahead and get started for the burner safety. And this module is to explain how these safeties work. It explains how to find these safeties, identify these safeties, and most importantly, how to understand their function so that we can feel more confident with the true safety features and redundancy that's in our burner system. So the first thing we want to look at is the dryer safety circuit, and we'll be looking at individual components. What we're looking at is called the maintenance screen, but this is available to the operator or for people when they're troubleshooting. And what we're looking at is something called a series limit string. So we see the picture just as would be depicted on the monitor. And these safeties that we're looking at on here, they work at the startup, and they also work while the process is functioning. All the conditions in the series limit string must be satisfied or the start sequence for the burner cannot begin. The burner will automatically shut down if any one of these series limit string elements, if the condition changes state while the burner is running. Changing state means if it's the switch that's closed to designate that everything is functioning properly. If that switch or that contact would open, that's what we mean when we say changing state. Now also the name of this, it's a series limit string. It's not an easy definition to remember. So let me explain what we have going on. The series, it means that everything falls in line, one in front of the other or one behind the other. So if we have 5 or 6 or 10 elements, the 5 or 6 or 10 elements, each one has to function properly. If any one element changes state, then the entire string is broken. So it's all in series. All of these elements, all of these contacts are in series. And they're in there to limit the operation. They're to stop it from being able to start if there's a problem, or to immediately stop the operation if there's a difficulty. So, and then the string is because the items all string together and are a very important part of the process. So, to look at that screen, what we want to do, we want to identify the series limit string components. So what we're seeing on that screen, we are going to show you what it is functionally in real life at the burner level. So the very first element we want to deal with are the airflow switches. As you recall from the component identification that we had, these are to prove that we have airflow at the process at various locations. And again, it's not just to understand something's going on, but it's true proof positive. So we will continue to identify these. And what we see, there's identification on the seal type that identifies it, sometimes on the airflow switch component itself. But this helps us to understand and correlate what we're seeing on the screen versus what we would see when we're actually at the panel. So we can see we have one airflow switch for the east exhaust, so we know that that's functioning. We have an airflow switch for the west exhaust, and you can see how these are all grouped together at one location at the burner. Then we also have the inlet fan pressure to be sure that we're sending the oxygen. The exhaust fans are keeping the vacuum on the system. Then we have the differential airflow across the burner. So we know that the oxygen and the air that we're supplying is actually moving past the burners. So we should be okay. We have that component, and then when we add the fuel and put the spark, we should be able to start the drying process. So some more components to tie together with the real world and identify to the series limit string. The low and high natural gas pressure switches. Again, the manufacturer's name is Dung, and we saw those in the component identification. These are in the main natural gas supply line. So the first one we have is the pressure switch looking for low gas pressure. So if the gas pressure would drop below what's required for the burner to function properly, it will stop the operation. By the same token, we also have the high pressure switch. If there's any difficulty there, it also will shut the process down. Okay, so next item, and we recall these again from our component education, the emergency stop switch, and they can be located at the burner deck and at other locations, but any one of them when they're depressed will stop the operation. So we can see where that shows up in this series. And again, any one of these when they change state, in this case, to change state would mean that the human element would push in on the switch. It will stop it, prevent it from startup, or it will stop it if it's operating. And then the last element that we're looking at here is the safety relay, and that's located in the burner control panel. So that's something that would be in the MCC. Okay, that concludes module number 3.